Okay, so today we're going to learn about the order of operations. First, we need to answer two questions. When would we use the order of operations? We would use the order of operations when there is more than two operations in an expression. For example, let's take a look at this expression, 3 plus 2 times 4. The two operations are addition and multiplication. So we would need a order to tell us which one to do first. Okay, so why would we do it? Because we need a certain way to interpret this expression that is consistent so that we don't get different answers. Okay, so let's watch a quick video that can explain this a little better.
Close attention, because really everything else that you're going to do in mathematics is going to be based on you having a solid grounding in order of operations. So what do we even mean when we say order of operations? So let me give you an example. The whole point is so that we have one way to interpret a mathematical statement. So let's say I have we have one way to interpret a mathematical statement. So let's say I have the mathematical statement 7 plus 3 times 5. Now, if we didn't all agree on order of operations, there would be two ways of interpreting this statement. You could just read it left to right. So you could say, well, let me just take 7 plus 3. You could say 7 plus 3 and then multiply that times 5. And 7 plus 3 is 10. And then you multiply that by 5. 10 times 5, it would get you 50. So that's one way you would interpret it if we didn't agree on an order of operations. Maybe it's a natural way. You just go left to right. Another way you could interpret it, you say, oh, I like to do multiplication before I do addition. So you might interpret it as, I'll try to color code it, 7 plus, and you do the 3 times 5 first. 7 plus 3 times 5, which would be 7 plus 3 times 5 is 15. And 7 plus 15 is 22. So notice, we interpreted the statement in two different ways. This was just straight left to right, doing the addition, then the multiplication. This way, we did the multiplication first, then the addition. We got two different answers, and that's just not cool in mathematics. If this was part of some effort to send something to the moon because two people interpreted it a different way, or one computer interpreted one way and another computer interpreted another way, the satellite might go to Mars. So this is just completely unacceptable, and that's why we have to have an agreed upon order of operations, an agreed upon way to interpret this statement. So the agreed upon order of operations is to do parentheses first. Let me write it over here. Parentheses first, then do exponents. If you don't know what exponents are, don't worry about it right now. Exponents, and in this video we're not going to have any exponents in our examples, so you don't really have to worry about it for this video. Then you do multiplication. I'll just write mult short for multiplication. Then you do multiplication and division next. They kind of have the same level of priority. And then finally you do addition and subtraction. So what is this order of operations? Let me label it. This right here, that is the agreed upon order of operations. And if we follow these order of operations, we should always get to the same answer for a given statement. So what does this tell us? What is the best way to interpret this up here? Well, we have no parentheses. Parentheses look like that. Those little curly things around numbers. We don't have any parentheses here. I'll do some examples that do have parentheses. We don't have any exponents here, but we do have some multiplication and division, or we actually just have some multiplication. So the order of operations say, do the multiplication and division first. So it says, do the multiplication first. That's a multiplication. So it says, do this operation first. It gets priority over addition or subtraction. So if we do this first, we get the 3 times 5, which is 15, and then we add the 7. The addition or subtraction, I'll do it here. Addition, we just have addition. just like that. So we do the multiplication first, get 15, then add the 7, 22. So based upon the agreed order of operations, this right here is the correct answer, the correct way to interpret this statement. Let's do another.
Okay, as you saw from that video, it's really important to follow the agreed upon order of operations because he got two different answers when he decided to do the different orders. So what I want to do now is take a little bit of notes. So on your foldable, I want you to quickly fill it out like this. So on that title page, put PEMDAS in the order of operations, and each flap should get its own operation. So parentheses first, and then exponents, multiplication and division, or division and multiplication, and finally addition and subtraction, or subtraction and addition. Okay, so take a minute to do that. All right, when you're done, we're going to first take a look at parentheses. So open that flap up and go ahead and write this at the top. Okay, so this is the example problem we're going to do for parentheses. As you can see, it has two operations. It has subtraction and addition. So seeing that there's two or more operations, we know that we have to use the order of operations. We need something to tell us what to do first so that anyone in the world could get the same answer. Everyone in the world could interpret it the same. So what we would do first is the parentheses, of course. What I like to do is do a caret like this around the operation, okay? That shows me what is coming first, and it helps me decide what's left over that I still have to do. Okay, so let's do 2 plus 4 first. That equals 6, okay? Now, what's very important to me is that you rewrite everything else around that. So what I would make you do is rewrite 13, okay, and rewrite the subtraction sign. This doesn't seem completely necessary now because we only have two operations, but when we get to 4, 5, or 6 operations, it's very important to keep very neat work, okay? So when we're done with the parentheses, we did that first. We are going to go ahead and just do that final operation, 13 minus 6, okay? So 13 minus 6 is 7. That's our answer. All right, so just make sure before we move on that this is in your notes. You want to make sure that you have this careted, okay, to show the operation that comes first. You can also caret this to show that this is the operation you're doing during this step of the problem. Okay, these are very important. All right, so parentheses comes first. Next comes exponents. It's the E in PEMDAS. So let's open up that flap, okay, and go ahead and write this at the top. All right, so as you can see, there is an exponent number, an exponential form, and then we have some subtraction. So this might look like one operation, but as you guys know from our study of exponents, there is something that we have to do to 3 to the third power to put it in standard form, okay? So what we want to do first, of course, is the exponent. It is the second operation in our order of operations. We don't see any parentheses, so we can skip right down to exponents, okay? So what I would do to show that I'm doing this operation is do a caret. Okay? What is 3 to the third power? 3 times 3 times 3. Make a little note of that. Okay? 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27. Okay? So I've made a caret, and I've written that answer right below it. So I know that 3 to the third is 27. Okay? If you remember what to do next, that I'm very picky about, is that we rewrite everything else from the first step. So we're going to take down this subtraction sign. We're going to take down this 5 so that we can see our new step. So we want to rewrite everything. So what we do next is the final operation. There's only one more, so there's really not much to decide upon. So we would do 27 minus 5, and I would do my caret just like that. to show that that is the operation I'm doing during this step. 27 minus 5. And that would be 22. That's our answer. I like to circle it nice and big. Make sure that you have this in your notes as well, especially with the carrots, so that we're practicing good habits from the start. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to multiplication and division. So why don't you guys open up your flap to multiplication and division, and then go ahead and write this on top. We'll have to move this down a little bit. Now this is a little bit longer, okay, because this is a division sign. When we're doing multiplication and division, there's not a specific order we go in. We don't always do multiplication first. It depends upon what's left to right. Okay, so we go in order from left to right. They have the same level of priority. How we decide is moving from left to right, like how we read. Okay, so if we look at this expression with two operations in it, it has both division and multiplication. We need to decide which comes first. Okay, so let's take a look. If we're moving from left to right, this division problem would come first, okay? So I want to carry around this problem. So 3 divided by 1, okay? That's what I'm going to do first because I do multiplication and division from left to right, and that's just what came first. So 3 divided by 1 is 3, okay? And that's my first step. Now, if you are paying attention, you know that our second step is to rewrite everything from this first step, okay? So we've rewritten the multiplication sign, we've rewritten the 6. Now, all we're left with is 3 times 6. It's just one operation, so there's not much to decide at this point, okay? So we're going to do 3 times 6. The answer is 18. Circle it nice and big. So remember, we do multiplication and division from left to right. Technically, if you're remembering PEMDAS, it can also be written as PEMDAS, depending on the context. Okay. So last but not least, we're going to do addition and subtraction. So open to that flap and write this at the top. Should look a little familiar to multiplication and division because addition and subtraction also hold the same priority. So we decide what to do first, going from left to right. Okay? This big arrow might help you remember left to right. So let's take a look at this expression below. It has two operations, so we know we have to use our order of operations to decide how to interpret it. And we have a subtraction and an addition problem, okay? Now we know that we do addition and subtraction from left to right. So from this side of the equation to the other. Now what comes first? Well, the subtraction problem comes first. 19 minus 2 comes first, okay? So we would caret that to show that that's the step we're doing. So 19 minus 2 is 17. Okay. Now what we do, of course, is rewrite everything. We're going to bring down this addition sign. We're going to bring down this 3. We need to rewrite everything from the original step, the first step. And you can see that we're left with just one operation. So this is our final step of this problem. We're going to caret it, and 17 plus 3 is 20. That's our answer. Okay. Now, quickly, I'd like you guys to go ahead and write this problem on the back of your foldable. Okay? Go ahead and write this one down. 3 minus, in parentheses, 9 divided by 3, plus 4 times 2. Write that down.